Hi teachers, this is Mr. Lue and I am your 7-Minute Sensei. This is where I attempt to explain everything that you need to know in 7 minutes or less. Now today I'm going to do a different kind of presentation, as this not only applies to my students, but it may be helpful for other teachers. I'm going to give you a sense of what is a day in the life of a sensei like. So for me, I start out my morning by just checking the news, seeing what I need to know. I try to keep the information, the content that I share with my students, current and relevant. So I load up my website, which I've named senseilue.com, as you can see on the screen. And I take a look and make sure that my slides are what I need to have for the day. So as you can see, I post my agenda for the day, or the orden del dia. I try to make it clear what the bell ringer is for the day, the word of the day, and as you can see here, I ask my students, in this example, this would be for Monday, this example, the students are to write on the 3x5 card their name and a policy question that they would like to ask our guest speakers. We happen to, for this economics class, we happen to have state legislators, and we will have them come in, and we're fortunate to have them, and they'll talk to us about policymakers and also fiscal spending or fiscal policy. And then I remind them, share any announcements that they need to have. For example, on that particular Monday, they would have a minimum day schedule, and so we'll show them that schedule. And then I tell them, the students, to go to their class. So if it was economics, they could click on this slide. Now, keep in mind, this is a Google slide embedded on a Google site. I find that using all the same Google products, even though my bias is towards Microsoft products, the Google products work well together. So I've embedded a slideshow, and here I have a menu item, a link to my economics class. So I click on that, and I have 4 preps, and this is for my A1 and A2. And once again, it just kind of gives a sense of what we're going to cover for that day. I provide reminders to the students about some class rules. Those probably need to be updated as well. With my agenda for the day, as you could see, I post what we are going to cover for the day and what we covered last, as you can see what was covered last, and what students should anticipate they will cover next, okay? And that's all laid out there, and I happen to have my AB calendar, so that's our school calendar, and I have that there to allow them to give them some context on what projects that they have up and coming. Now, after that, we usually start out the day, of course, by taking attendance. So I click on iCampus, and with that, I can take my attendance for the day. We won't show you that out of concern for FERPA, but I take my attendance, and then we get started with a discussion, and we talk about, I like to quote Stephen Covey here and say, we like to begin with the end in mind. What can the students expect that they will need to do by the end of class? And we'll share with them the topic for the day. So in this case, we'll talk about, the topic is about policymakers and fiscal policy. So we kind of give them a picture of what we will discuss for today and what the desired learning outcome is for the day. After that, we just break right into discussion, and I'll often reflect on personal life experiences, professional experiences, education experiences, to demonstrate to the students how, in fact, these topics that we discuss, how they kind of intersect with our lives, okay? So, for example, I might talk about my own personal property taxes and explain, how enormous that may be and what that might pay for. However, in this case, I would probably turn the time over almost immediately to our guests, our visitors, so they can begin their presentation. After that, at the end of the class, so I have a bell ringer at the beginning, and that bell ringer is a word of the day. In this case, we don't have a word of the day, but we might have, as we have had in the past, we might have a word of the day in this class as fiscal policy. And the students are supposed to attempt to answer questions in my bell ringer, and it's all digital, it's all online. So they come and scroll down on this website here, and as you can see, there is a bell ringer. And they can click on the bell ringer, and they answer a couple questions. They give me some data about themselves. And so that's all being tabulated. There's really no work on my part other than giving them the word of the day or what they need to define. In the word of the day instructions, I give them a link to Word Hippo. It could be to anything, and I tell them that they can use whatever tool they want. And they not only need to share their prior knowledge, but also take a moment to look up the word and build vocabulary. As you know, our job is to help build literacy. And in this case, it would be economic literacy. So we want them to understand some basics here, build their vocabulary. Once we're done with that, then I'll close this down right here. Once we're done with that, then again, we just have some lively discussions, some banter back and forth, and I ask students to weigh in, share their opinions about things. In the case of economics, we often refer back to the law of scarcity, and that's the foundation. The law of scarcity is the foundation to economics. And it essentially says that society must make these economic decisions because we have scarce resources and unlimited wants or needs. And to try to reconcile that, we have to establish our priorities, which are built on our value system. And so we talk about, since economics is a social science, we talk about our value systems and how we develop those. So our values come from our culture, our religion, our politics, our belief about race and equality. All those are factored in, and they are part of economics. They are part of how we decide to allocate scarce resources. Do we believe in public transportation? Do we believe in public education? How do we allocate the resources? After that, we would then, for me, I introduce the student to the Canvas assignment. So we take a look at a Canvas assignment. And in the case of economics, I click on economics. And I just break this down by the strands and standards that are provided to me by the state. So if we looked at the standards that are made available for this class, they're here. And we simply use that as our outline. The nice thing about this is since I pretty much just follow this, then the students know what to anticipate, what's up next. So we try to teach self-directed learning. So if they had to just rely on this document, it could give them some direction of what they need to do next. But if we were looking at policymakers and fiscal policy, normally if I wouldn't have a public speaker or guest speaker, I would have the students click on this, and the first link here for me, I do pay for a subscription to study.com. And so I have the students click on that link, and this is really kind of a confirmation of what I've already discussed with them. They'll watch a video in this case about, they'll watch this particular video about fiscal policy, and I'll give you just a short snippet of this. Okay.
Imagine that Sam is sick. He's at home right now, and the doctor's been called.
Okay. That's study.com. Now, at the end of study.com, I ask them to take a quiz. And so we go through a simple quiz. There are 5 questions, and it's multiple choice. And I have the students go through this quiz. Now, so we use this as our formative assessment. And they're relatively easy. For me, I go around the classroom and I invite all students to participate. And what we do is I give them 2 minutes after we watch the video. I give them 2 minutes to answer the question. And I have a dashboard with study.com. It's about $500 a year for that subscription. You could use your teacher money to, maybe subsidize the cost of that, but it won't cover, of course, the entire subscription price. If I look at, let's see, so here's the quiz. And if I look at what I do as while they're taking the quiz, now I know what I want to say. I go back to my home page. Okay, so for me, I click on that. And I click on this button right here, which is, I call it the 2-minute drill. Click on that. And I give the students 2 minutes to complete the quiz, the assessment. And this is just a simple timer. I think it's a Chrome app. And I just click start, and they could see on the screen. So we sort of gamify this. We allow the students to, it does create a sense of urgency. It does force them to focus on the task that is at hand. And so that's the timer, and it just adds a little element of fun to this as well. Now, after I do that for my class, we just kind of wrap things up. And then I actually ask them to do their assignment. So we go back to Canvas. Here we talk about doing the quiz, but then I ask them and suggest a graphic organizer. Now I have numerous graphic organizers that I've created on my website. So I've just created a tab of graphic organizers, and you're familiar with many of them. You do know Oreo, where you state your opinion and your reason and so forth, your explanation, and then you restate your opinion. But I've just tried to create this paperless environment, and where we have a digital form and we rely on Google Forms to create these little graphic organizers. So if we were to go to, in this case, I like to have fun. If we go to the CIA graphic organizer, I asked the students in this example, this type of organizer, I've got quite a few that I created. I say, in this graphic organizer, I want you to cite evidence or give an example or investigate a claim. And so I is investigate. I want to teach the students about deeper learning. And so therefore, I say, you got to learn how to research and investigate this. What can you, if this was about fiscal policy, what can you find about this topic on the internet or based on what we've discussed or the video we've watched? All of this. So make an investigation. And then the A is I want the students to anticipate some of the consequences of decisions that we make, and also the unintended consequences. So if we talk about fiscal policy, that our tax and spend policies that say we want to inject this stimulus package to get our economy going again. That's great, and we've got a lot of money out there now in the economy, but maybe what's some of the unintended consequences? What can we anticipate? We look at the business cycles and we say, if we do this, if we print more dollars chasing after fewer goods, then this thing called inflation happens. And so we ask them to, tell us, what can we anticipate based on your research and your investigation. Okay, let me go ahead and close that. Like I say, I provide a number of different graphic organizers that I've created, and pretty much that's all they do. I do also offer them that they can on Canvas submit a text entry, which is just give me your regular essay, do a nice essay, complete work, which would include an introduction, your thesis statement, your supporting evidence, your examples, your closing, restating your thesis. And in business, we often will ask the students to provide some kind of call to action. So that's what we do in a lot of our essays. With that, then we just have them submit, and then I'm just grading a lot of essays. Truth be known, and I'm very transparent with the students about this, many of my assignments are participation type grades. Did you complete it, or is it incomplete? And so the grading, I've learned how to skim through those. And the reason why I want my students to write essays, even though they're short essays, is because, again, we're trying to help build literacy and focus on these literacy skills, whether it's reading and writing and speaking and so forth. So we try to, even if it's a short assignment, we try to get them in some good habits. Okay, hopefully reinforcing what they're already learning in your classes. With that, let me go ahead and close down Canvas and go back to my website. We have the students do an exit ticket question at the end of the class period. And that exit ticket question, that is, I believe that students can demonstrate what they've learned best by sharing an example. And so the exit ticket for me is usually the students know, what's the exit ticket today, Mr. Lue? They know to wait. And, we try to do this maybe 5-6 minutes before the bell rings. And we say, give me an example of whatever the topic that we discussed that day. So if it was fiscal policy, I would say, give me an example of fiscal policy. They complete this form, they submit it, and then in my classroom, I then invite them to come and tear off a sheet of paper towel so that they can start cleaning up their desk area, their keyboards, because this is a computer lab. They clean up their keyboards, they wipe down their mouse, they're supposed to wipe down the desk, the chairs, and so forth. And really, that's kind of how we wrap things up. We go through this. Again, I have 4 preps, so I have 2 different types of classes each day. And so I have to pivot a little bit and get prepared for the next class. I try to take advantage of my prep time to get ready, grade papers, and so forth. And then at the end of the day, I start the cycle all over again. But I have this routine that just says, let's try to stay ahead of the class. Maybe at least 1 lesson, of course, but ideally 2 lessons. And I just go to the state strands and standards, identify where we're at. If we're in strand 3 and it's standard 2, then the lesson assignment becomes, it goes into modules on Canvas, and it goes into the 3rd module, and it goes, the assignment becomes 3.1. I post the study.com video, standard questions I might ask them, standard exercise, the drill, the routine, and that's pretty much it. I update my slides, then I refresh my website, and pretty much we're good to go. Now, it does take time up front. There is that upfront investment to get this all set up. But I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope it inspires you to do even greater things. And then students, for you, I hope that this gives a clearer picture of the routine that we in fact do every day, so that you can learn whether you're here in the classroom or you're at home. Hey, appreciate you, and we will see you soon. Thanks.